The Great Hall of Nexus Prime stretched for miles in every direction. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy filled the massive space. Some floated in special chambers filled with gas. Others stood on platforms made of pure energy. The Galactic Consortium had called its greatest meeting in over 1,000 years. Elder Veltharion moved slowly to the center speaking platform. The ancient being looked like a mixture of crystal and smoke. Its voice echoed through translation devices in hundreds of languages. The Cathara were old when most species were still learning to make fire. When Elder Veltharion spoke, smart beings listened. "I bring a warning from the deep past," the elder said. Its voice was soft but carried to every corner of the hall. "There is a species on the edge of the third spiral. They call themselves humans. They are small. They are weak. They live such short lives that they barely have time to learn wisdom." Laughter rippled through the crowd. The Zephyrians, tall beings made of living crystal, clicked their bodies together in amusement. The massive Torgan warriors stomped their feet and roared with joy. Even the floating Luminari, beings of pure energy, pulsed with colors that meant humor in their language. "But," Elder Veltharion continued, "they have something we have never seen before. They do not surrender. They do not accept defeat. When you hurt them, they learn. When you beat them, they grow stronger. When you kill them, others remember and become more dangerous." Ambassador Kang Do-young sat in the human section. It was a small area near the back of the hall. Only 12 humans had been invited to this meeting. They wore simple clothes compared to the grand robes and armor of other species. Kang Do-young felt his face burn with shame as the laughter grew louder. Supreme Chancellor Zerathon of the Zephyrians rose from his crystal throne. Light danced through his transparent body as he spoke. "Honored Elder, surely you jest. We have studied these humans. They fight among themselves constantly. They destroy their own planet. They have barely reached beyond their home system. What threat could such primitives pose to the great civilizations of the galaxy?" War Chief Brutax of the Torgan hegemony stood next. He was 12 feet tall and covered in natural armor plates. His voice boomed across the hall. "I have seen their military reports. Their largest ships are smaller than our fighters. Their weapons use chemical reactions instead of plasma or antimatter. They are children playing with toys." More laughter filled the hall. Beings pointed at the human delegation and made jokes in their native languages. Kang Do-young wanted to stand and defend his species, but what could he say? Everything they said was true. Humans were weak compared to these ancient powers. Elder Veltharion waited for the noise to die down. "I have lived for 10,000 of your years. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have watched species that seemed unstoppable crumble to dust. The humans are different. They have something in their nature that you do not understand. They remember every insult. They never forget who wronged them. And when they finally move, they move with purpose that burns like stars." "Pretty words," said Luminari speaker Zixandros, its energy form shifting to show dismissal. "But words do not make them dangerous. We have energy weapons that can destroy their entire fleet in minutes. We have shields they cannot penetrate. We have technology they will not understand for centuries." The vote was called. Species after species voted to place humanity in the lowest tier of galactic membership. Trade with humans would be limited to basic goods. No advanced technology would be shared. Human ships could not leave their home system without special permits. Human colonies were forbidden beyond a small zone around their sun. The final vote was 823 species in favor, 3 against, and 21 abstaining. The humans were not allowed to vote on their own status. Ambassador Kang Do-young stood slowly when given permission to speak. His voice shook with controlled anger. "We came here in peace. We offered friendship and cooperation. We asked only for fair treatment and the chance to prove ourselves as worthy members of this consortium. Instead, you have judged us before knowing us. You have decided our fate based on fear and prejudice," more laughter answered him. Some beings made rude gestures. Others simply ignored him and talked among themselves. "Remember this day," Kang Do-young said, his voice growing stronger. "Remember how you treated us. Remember the choice you made here, because we will remember it all." The human delegation left in silence. They boarded their small ship and began the long journey home. The other species returned to their celebrations and politics, already forgetting about the insignificant humans. Captain Park Jinwoo received the news 3 days later aboard his survey ship Perseverance. He was exploring the outer edge of human space, mapping asteroids and looking for resources. His crew gathered around the communication station as Ambassador Kang Doyoung's message played. "The consortium has spoken," the ambassador said over the quantum link. "We are to be children in their galactic family. We are to be grateful for scraps from their table. We are to accept that we will never be their equals." Pilot Lee Seojin slammed his fist on his console. "Arrogant aliens think they own the galaxy." Engineer Kim Nari shook her head. "Maybe they do own it. Did you see their ships? Their weapons? We are outmatched by thousands of years." Communications Officer Choi Hyunwoo was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke carefully. "The Elder tried to warn them about us. Why would it do that if we are so harmless?" Captain Park Jinwoo looked out at the stars through the ship's main window. He thought about his daughter Jisoo, only 5 years old, playing in their garden on New Seoul Colony. He thought about all the human colonies spreading slowly through space. Farmers and miners and scientists building new homes among the stars. "Plot a course for home," he ordered. "But take the long way. I want to see every human settlement on our way back. I want to count our ships and our people and our worlds." "Why, sir?" asked Lee Seojin. "Because," Captain Park Jinwoo said slowly, "I want to know exactly what we have to work with." The Perseverance began its journey through human space. At each colony, Captain Park Jinwoo met with local leaders. He shared the news from the consortium meeting. He watched carefully as anger and determination grew in their eyes. On mining station Korea 7, Administrator Song Mirai listened to the report. Then she pulled up blueprints on her computer. "We have been building mining equipment," she said. "But the same technology that digs deep holes can be used for other purposes." On agricultural world Pusan Prime, Colonial Governor Won Tae-hyun reviewed shipping manifests. "We have been growing food," he said. "But we have also been building ships to carry that food. Ships that could carry other things if needed." On Research Station Alpha, Dr. Lim Ji-ho showed Captain Park Jinwoo through laboratories filled with experiments. "We have been studying how to make life better for humans," he said. "But the same knowledge can be used to make life very difficult for our enemies." At each stop, Captain Park Jinwoo left the same message. "Remember what they said about us. Remember how they treated us. Remember that they think we are harmless." When the Perseverance finally reached Earth, Captain Park Jinwoo had traveled through 17 star systems. He had seen 43 human colonies. He had met with hundreds of leaders, scientists, engineers, and soldiers. He sent his report to President Han Ji-won of the United Human Colonies. It was a simple message. "We are not as weak as they think. We are not as few as they believe. And we are not as grateful as they expect." President Han Ji-won read the report in her office overlooking the rebuilt city of Seoul. Outside her window, construction crews worked on new buildings that reached toward the sky. In the harbor, ships loaded with supplies for distant colonies prepared to leave. She thought about the Elder's warning. She thought about the consortium's laughter. She thought about her own children and grandchildren who would inherit whatever future humanity built among the stars. President Han Ji-won opened a new file on her computer. She typed a single word at the top, "Horizon." Then she began to write plans that would take 50 years to complete. Plans that would show the galaxy exactly what humans could accomplish when they were underestimated. The warning had been given. The choice had been made. Now it was time to see who had judged correctly. 50 years had passed since the meeting on Nexus Prime. The galaxy had continued its normal business. Trade flowed between star systems. Wars started and ended. The great powers grew stronger while the weak remained weak. Most beings had forgotten about the humans entirely. Dr. Song Mirai stood in the command center of her greatest achievement. What looked like a simple mining facility on the outside was actually the largest shipyard in human space. Around her, thousands of workers built ships in underground factories that stretched for miles beneath the planet's surface. "Production report, 17 is ready," her assistant said, handing her a data pad. Song Mirai read the numbers with satisfaction. In the past year alone, they had completed 300 warships. Not the small patrol boats that other species expected humans to build, but real warships with armor and weapons that could fight anything in the galaxy. The best part was that no one knew. To outside observers, the facility was still producing mining equipment and sending it to human colonies. The shipping manifests were correct. They were mining equipment designed to mine enemy ships for their valuable metals. Send the report to Admiral Wan Tai-hyun, she ordered, and remind him that Facility 12 will be ready for inspection next month. Admiral Wan Tai-hyun received the report aboard his flagship, Seoul's Pride. The ship appeared to be a simple cargo hauler carrying farm equipment to distant colonies. In reality, it was the command ship of the largest military fleet in the galaxy, a fleet that officially did not exist. He read Song Miri's report with the satisfaction of a man watching 50 years of careful planning come together. Project Horizon was nearly complete. 17 star systems now contained hidden military installations. Each one could operate independently if communication was cut. Each one could build ships, train soldiers, and defend against invasion. "Admiral," his aide said, "we have received a priority message from Intelligence Command." Wan Tai-hyun opened the encrypted file. What he read made his blood run cold. The peaceful Verdani, one of the few species that had voted against restricting humanity, were in danger. The Luminari had declared the Verdani to be evolutionary dead ends that threatened galactic purity. Within 6 months, Luminari forces would arrive to cleanse Verdani space of all life. The operation would begin with the destruction of Verdani Prime, home to 8 billion innocent beings. Wan Tai-hyun called an emergency meeting of the Human Colonial Council. President Yoon Seon appeared on his screen along with military leaders from across human space. They debated for hours about what to do. "We are not ready for open war," warned General Bae Soo-young. "If we reveal ourselves now, every species in the galaxy will unite against us." "The Verdani helped us when no one else would," replied Admiral Kim Sun-woo. "They shared their medical knowledge. They traded with us fairly. We cannot abandon them now." President Yoon Seon listened to all arguments before making her decision. "We will help the Verdani, but we will do it carefully. The galaxy must not know that humans were involved." Lieutenant Commander Lim Ji-ho received his orders 3 weeks later. His squadron was conducting training exercises in the empty space near the Verdani system. 20 ships officially listed as cargo haulers waited in the darkness between stars. The Luminari arrived exactly on schedule. 50 ships of pure energy, beautiful and terrible as they moved toward Verdani Prime. Their leader, Field Marshal Kethinar, broadcast the standard cleansing declaration to the terrified planet below. "By order of the Luminary Collective, this system has been judged unworthy of continued existence. All life will be purified by holy fire. Do not resist. Death comes as a gift." The Luminary ships powered their weapons and prepared to turn the planet into cosmic dust. They expected no resistance. The Verdani had no military. They were peaceful farmers and artists who had never built a single warship. That was when Lieutenant Commander Lim Ji-ho's squadron dropped their cloaking fields and opened fire. The Luminari had never seen weapons like the ones humans used. Instead of energy beams that could be deflected by shields, the humans used solid projectiles that punched through energy barriers like they were not there. Instead of fighting at long range, the human ships charged forward and attacked at close quarters where Luminari advantages meant nothing. Field Marshal Kethinar watched in horror as his beautiful ships were torn apart by primitive kinetic weapons. "Impossible," he transmitted to his fleet. "These are obsolete technologies. They should not be effective against us." But effective they were. Human ships swarmed around the larger Luminari vessels like angry insects. When Luminari ships tried to retreat, the humans followed them. When they tried to group together for mutual defense, the humans split their formation and attacked from all sides. The battle lasted only 20 minutes. When it was over, 50 Luminari ships had been reduced to glowing debris. Not a single human ship had been destroyed, though several were damaged. Lieutenant Commander Lim Ji-ho sent a single message to the planet below. "You are safe. Tell no one what you saw here today." Then his squadron activated their cloaking fields and vanished into space as if they had never existed. The Verdani rescue teams that investigated the battle site found only wreckage. They detected traces of unknown weapons and unfamiliar energy signatures, but nothing that clearly identified who had saved them. When the Luminary Collective demanded explanations, the Verdani honestly said they did not know what had happened. The consortium investigated but found no evidence. Most species assumed the Verdani had been hiding secret weapons all along. Commander John Eunji smiled as she read the intelligence reports from her office on Earth. The galaxy was looking for the wrong answers in the wrong places. She had spent years building networks of information and disinformation, Every investigation led away from humanity and toward other suspects. Some reports suggested the Zephyrians had attacked the Luminari to gain access to Verdani trade routes. Others hinted that the Torgan hegemony was testing new weapons. A few even claimed that the mysterious elder species had emerged from hiding to protect their ancient allies. The truth was exactly what Commander John Unji had intended. The galaxy was too busy suspecting each other to suspect humanity, but the victory had consequences. War Chief Brutax of the Torgan hegemony saw opportunity in Luminari weakness. If someone could destroy 50 Luminari ships, then the energy beings were not as invincible as they claimed. Perhaps it was time for the Torgans to expand their territory. Brutax assembled the largest war fleet in Torgan history. 200 ships including his personal dreadnought Star Crusher. The fleet would claim Verdani space and discover whatever weapons had defeated the Luminari. The Verdani sent desperate messages to every species they knew, begging for help. Most ignored them. A few sent expressions of sympathy but no actual aid. Only one message came back with a promise of assistance. "We have not forgotten your kindness to us," the message said. "Help is coming." It was signed by Ambassador Kang Minhyuk, son of the diplomat who had been humiliated 50 years earlier at the consortium meeting. Admiral Wan Tae-hyun read the intelligence reports about the approaching Torgan fleet. 200 ships was more than his hidden forces had ever faced at once. But it was also an opportunity. For 50 years, humanity had built and planned and prepared in secret. Now it was time to see if their preparations were enough. "Send word to all commands," he ordered. "Operation Star Eyes is authorized. It is time for the galaxy to learn what humans can accomplish when we work together." Captain Hong Youngmin received his orders aboard the destroyer Incheon's Hammer. He was to command the first openly human fleet action since the species had joined the consortium. His ships would not hide behind cloaking fields or false identities. They would fight as humans under human flags for human principles. The Torgan fleet arrived at Verdani Prime expecting easy conquest. What they found was a human battle line waiting for them in perfect formation. War Chief Brutax stared at his tactical display in confusion. "What are these ships?" "They are too small to be dangerous. They appear to be built from primitive materials." His fleet intelligence officer studied the scans. "Sir, they are registering as human vessels." "But that is impossible. Humans do not have a military fleet." "Then these must be the secret weapons that destroyed the Luminari," Brutax decided. "Destroy them quickly before they can use their tricks against us." The Torgan fleet opened fire with plasma cannons that could melt asteroids. The human ships scattered like leaves in a storm, but they did not retreat. Instead, they began to move in patterns that no Torgan tactical computer could predict. Captain Hong Youngmin watched the enemy fire pass harmlessly through the space his ship had occupied a moment before. "All ships execute Plan 7. Show them what coordination really looks like." The human fleet moved like a single living creature. When Torgan ships tried to target individual vessels, they found their targets had moved, and other human ships were already firing at them from unexpected angles. When they tried to predict human movements, they discovered that human tactics changed faster than Torgan computers could calculate. But the real shock came when the first human ship was destroyed. The crew of the Busan's Fury fought until their shields failed and their hull was breached. Instead of surrendering or retreating, Captain Yoon Jaemin news of the Torgan defeat spread across the galaxy like wildfire. For the first time in centuries, one of the great powers had suffered a major military loss, but most species still did not understand what had really happened. Commander John Unji sat in her intelligence center on Earth, watching news reports from across the galaxy. Her disinformation campaign was working perfectly. Different species were blaming each other for the Torgan defeat. The Zephyrians developed new crystal weapons, claimed one report. Secret. Luminari forces used advanced energy manipulation, suggested. Another. Ancient technology left by the elders, whispered a third. Only a few reports mentioned humans at all, and those were quickly dismissed as impossible. How could a species that was barely allowed to leave their home system destroy the mighty Torgan war fleet? Commander Joan Yoonji smiled as she filed another false intelligence report. Let them keep guessing. The longer they looked in the wrong directions, the more time humanity had to prepare for what was coming, because something was definitely coming. The consortium could not allow the destruction of a major fleet to go unanswered. Fear was spreading among the great powers. If the Torgans could be defeated, then no one was truly safe. Supreme Chancellor Zerathon of the Zephyrians called an emergency session of the Consortium Council. Representatives from 600 species gathered on Nexus Prime to discuss the growing threat to galactic stability. "We face an unknown enemy," Zerathon announced, his crystal body flashing with urgent colors. "Someone possesses weapons powerful enough to destroy our greatest fleets. We must discover who they are and eliminate them before they strike again." Ambassador Kang Minhyuk sat in the human section, trying to keep his expression neutral. The human delegation had grown over the decades but was still small compared to the major powers. Most delegates ignored them completely. "Perhaps," Kang Minhyuk said when given permission to speak, "the real question is not who has these weapons, but why they are being used. The Luminari attacked innocent Verdani. The Torgans tried to conquer Verdani space. Both aggressors were defeated. Maybe the galaxy should ask itself why someone felt the need to stop these attacks." Laughter filled the hall, just as it had 50 years earlier, when his father spoke about human dignity. "Naive humans," clicked Zephyrian Defense Minister Crithion. "You still believe in primitive concepts like justice and protection of the weak. The galaxy operates on strength and power. The strong take what they need. The weak accept their fate. The Verdani are useful trade partners," added Torgan War Chief Brutax, his voice shaking with barely controlled rage. "But they are not worth protecting against superior species. Whoever destroyed my fleet will pay for their interference." Other delegates nodded in agreement. The consensus was clear. Some unknown force was disrupting the natural order where strong species dominated weak ones. This could not be allowed to continue. Elder Veltharion rose slowly from the ancient seat reserved for the Cathara. The hall grew quiet as the being that had lived for 10,000 years prepared to speak. "I warned you once about the species from the third spiral," the elder said. "You laughed then just as you laugh now. But ask yourselves this question. Why would someone risk war with the great powers to protect the Verdani? What kind of beings would sacrifice their own lives to save strangers?" "Fools," declared Luminary Speaker Zixandros. "Only fools would risk everything for those weaker than themselves." "Yes," Elder Veltharion agreed. "And that is exactly why you should fear them." The consortium voted to form a joint task force to investigate the unknown threat. Ships from a dozen species would patrol the borders of Verdani space, watching for any sign of the mysterious defenders. Admiral Wan Taihyun read the intelligence reports from his hidden command center on Mining Station Korea 7. The galaxy was finally paying attention to humanity, even if they did not know it yet. But their attention brought new dangers. "We cannot remain hidden much longer," warned General Bae Soo-young during their secure video conference. "The consortium is actively searching for us now. Eventually they will find our installations. Maybe it is time to stop hiding," suggested Admiral Kim Sun-woo. "We have built our strength for 50 years. We have proven we can defeat their fleets. Perhaps we should reveal ourselves and demand the respect we deserve." Wan Tae-hyun considered this carefully. Humanity had indeed grown strong. Hidden shipyards across 17 systems had produced over 2,000 warships. Secret training facilities had created the most disciplined military force in the galaxy. Advanced weapons research had given them technology that could penetrate any known defense. But numbers were still against them. The consortium had hundreds of thousands of ships. Even if human vessels were superior individually, they could be overwhelmed by sheer quantity. "Not yet," Wan Tae-hyun decided. "We need one more demonstration. Something that will make them truly fear us before they realize who we are." The opportunity came sooner than expected. The Joint Consortium Task Force began aggressive patrols around Verdani space, demanding to inspect every ship and search every station. They were looking for evidence of advanced weapons, but their searches quickly became harassment of innocent civilians. Captain Lee Bo-young commanded the human stealth ship, Gangnam's Shadow, as it monitored consortium activities. What she saw made her angry. Zephyrian crystal ships were stopping Verdani cargo haulers and stripping them of valuable goods. Torgan enforcers were arresting Verdani citizens for suspicious activities like owning basic tools. Luminary energy beings were purifying Verdani settlements that showed any sign of technological advancement. "They are not investigating," Lee Bo-young reported to Admiral Wan Tae-hyun. "They are punishing the Verdani for being protected by unknown forces. This is collective punishment against innocence." One Taehyun felt the cold anger that had sustained humanity for 50 years. The great powers of the galaxy had learned nothing. They still believed that might made right. They still thought they could abuse the weak without consequences. All ships, he transmitted on the secure command frequency. Operation Daybreak is authorized. It is time for the galaxy to see us clearly. The attack began at precisely 800 Galactic Standard Time across 17 star systems simultaneously. Consortium patrol fleets that had been harassing civilian shipping suddenly found themselves under assault by ships that seemed to appear from nowhere. But these were not the hidden strikes of the past. The human ships that emerged from cloaking fields flew under their own flags. They transmitted identification codes that clearly marked them as vessels of the United Human Colonies, and they fought with a coordination and precision that shocked every observer. Captain Nam Junho led the assault on the Zephyrian Patrol, group near Verdani Prime. His squadron of 12 destroyers faced 30 crystal ships that were individually larger and more heavily armed. The engagement should have been hopeless for the humans. Instead, it became a masterclass in tactical excellence. The human ships moved in perfect formation, each one supporting the others while maintaining optimal firing positions. When Zephyrian crystal beams struck human armor, the energy was absorbed and redirected back at the attackers. When the crystal ships tried to coordinate their defense, they found that human jamming systems had cut their communications. Impossible, transmitted Zephyrian Fleet Commander Velthios, as his flagship was torn apart by human weapons. These are the same primitives we dismissed decades ago. How did they become so dangerous? Captain Nam Junho answered him directly. We learned from every insult. We grew stronger from every restriction. We built our strength while you celebrated your superiority. Now you see what humanity can accomplish when we are united. The same scene played out across the galaxy. Torgan heavy cruisers were outmaneuvered by human frigates. Luminary energy ships were disrupted by human electromagnetic weapons. Species that had ruled the stars for millennia found themselves helpless against opponents they had considered harmless children. The most shocking engagement occurred at Consortium Outpost Gamma 7, where a joint task force of 5 different species was conducting research into advanced weapons. In reality, they were torturing captured Verdani scientists to learn the secrets of their mysterious protectors. Admiral Kim Sunwoo arrived with the heavy cruiser Daegu's Wrath and 2 squadrons of escort ships. She found the consortium forces in the middle of executing innocent civilians. By order of the United Human Colonies, she transmitted to the entire base. You will release all prisoners and surrender immediately. You have 1 minute to comply. The consortium commander, a Zephyrian general named Krith Andor, responded with contempt. Humans do not give orders to their superiors. Return to your primitive world before we decide to discipline you properly. Kim Sunwoo's response was swift and terrible. The Daegu's Wrath opened fire with every weapon it possessed. The station's shields, designed to withstand energy weapons, offered no protection against solid projectiles accelerated to relativistic speeds. In 30 seconds, the entire facility was reduced to scattered debris, but Kim Sunwoo was not finished. The escaping ships of the consortium fleet found themselves pursued by human vessels that would not let them retreat. One by one, they were hunted down and deordered one fin. The galaxy trembled. For the first time in 1,000 years, the great powers faced an enemy they could not intimidate or ignore. Emergency meetings were called on every major world. Ancient alliances were tested as species chose sides in the coming conflict. Supreme Chancellor Zerathon stood in his crystal palace on Zephyria Prime, surrounded by military advisors and alliance representatives. Holographic displays showed the spreading chaos as human forces continued their precise strikes across the galaxy. We must unite against this threat, Zerathon declared, his crystalline body flashing with urgent colors. If we allow the humans to defeat us individually, they will destroy the order that has kept peace in the galaxy for millennia. War Chief Brutax slammed his armored fist on the conference table. Peace? You call oppression peace? The humans are right about one thing. We have grown weak and corrupt while believing our own propaganda about superiority. You speak treason, hissed Luminary Speaker Zixandros, its energy form pulsing with anger. The natural order places the strong above the weak. The humans seek to overturn this truth and create chaos. General Thekmore of the insectoid hive minds clicked his mandibles in disagreement. Perhaps the humans offer something better than our current system. They protect the weak instead of exploiting them. They build alliances through cooperation instead of fear. The debate raged for hours as more reports arrived. Human fleets had destroyed consortium bases in 12 different systems, but they had also delivered medical supplies to refugee camps and rebuilt infrastructure on worlds damaged by previous conflicts. The humans were not just conquerors. They were offering an alternative to the current galactic order. President Han Ji-won received hourly updates in her command center deep beneath Seoul. The first phase of Operation Starfall was proceeding exactly as planned. Human forces had demonstrated their capability while minimizing civilian casualties. Now came the more difficult part. Admiral Won Tae-hyun reports that consortium fleets are beginning to coordinate, her military aide informed her. Intelligence estimates they can gather over 10,000 ships within 2 weeks. Han Ji-won studied the tactical displays showing enemy fleet movements. 10,000 ships against fewer than 3,000 human vessels. The numbers were daunting, but numbers had never been humanity's greatest advantage. Send word to all colonial governors, she ordered. Activate the Genesis Protocol. It is time for the galaxy to see what humans can accomplish when we stop holding back. The Genesis Protocol had been humanity's greatest secret for 20 years. Hidden construction facilities that could build entire fleets in a matter of days. Automated factories that required no workers, only raw materials and energy. Weapon systems that pushed the boundaries of known physics. Dr. Song Mirai supervised the activation from her facility on Kepler 442b. Around her, machines that had been disguised as mining equipment revealed their true purpose. Assembly lines that could construct a destroyer in 8 hours. Fabrication systems that could turn asteroids into battleships overnight. All facilities report ready, she informed Admiral Won Tae-hyun. We can triple our fleet strength within 1 week. But once we reveal these capabilities, there will be no hiding our true potential. Won Tae-hyun understood the implications. For 50 years, humanity had carefully controlled how much strength they revealed. They had been like a fighter pretending to be injured, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. That moment had finally arrived. Activate all facilities, he ordered. Let them see what we have really been building out here. The consortium's response was swift and brutal. Supreme Chancellor Zarathon transmitted an ultimatum to every human colony simultaneously. By order of the Galactic Consortium, the human species has been declared a threat to galactic stability. You have 72 hours to surrender unconditionally and submit to permanent military occupation. Your fleets will be destroyed. Your technology will be confiscated. Your leaders will face trial for crimes against galactic order. The message continued with specific demands. All human ships were to report to designated surrender points. All military installations were to be abandoned. All colonial governments were to dissolve themselves and accept consortium authority. Failure to comply, Zarathon concluded, will result in the complete destruction of human civilization. You have been warned. President Han Ji-won watched the ultimatum with her senior staff. Around the room, faces showed grim determination rather than fear. This was the moment they had prepared for since the first insult at Nexus Prime. Draft our response, she told her communications director. Broadcast it to every inhabited system in the galaxy. The response was simple and devastating in its clarity. To the Galactic Consortium and all member species, we reject your ultimatum completely. For 50 years you have denied us equality while we offered friendship. You have restricted our growth while we sought cooperation. You have mocked our values while we protected the innocent. You chose to make us your enemies through arrogance and cruelty. Now you will learn what it means to face humanity united in purpose. We do not surrender. We do not submit. And we do not forgive those who threaten our people. You have 72 hours to withdraw all forces from neutral space and release all political prisoners. After that time, we will consider any consortium military presence an act of war against humanity and the free peoples of the galaxy. The message was signed by President Han Ji-won and endorsed by the leaders of 47 human colonies. But it also carried the signatures of the Verdani government, the peaceful Korthani alliance, and 15 other species that had suffered under consortium rule. War Chief Brutax received the human response aboard his rebuilt flagship Starcrusher II. Around him, his officers prepared for the largest military operation in Torgan history. But the war chief felt no excitement, only grim foreboding. Sir, his intelligence officer reported, Our scouts are detecting massive energy signatures from human space. It appears they are constructing ships at an impossible rate. Brutax studied the sensor data with growing unease. The readings showed industrial activity beyond anything in the known galaxy. Either the humans had technology far more advanced than anyone suspected, or they had been preparing for this war much longer than 72 hours. How many ships do our best estimates give them? He asked. Conservative estimate is 5,000 vessels, sir. But the energy readings suggest they could have twice that number. Brutax closed his eyes and remembered the battle at Verdani Prime. He had watched human crews choose death over surrender. He had seen their ships coordinate with precision that surpassed computer control. If they could field 10,000 ships with that same level of discipline and determination, send a message to my clan leaders, he ordered quietly. Tell them to prepare the homeworld's defenses. I fear we have awakened something that will not rest until it has devoured us all. The 72 hours passed in a frenzy of preparation on both sides. Consortium fleets gathered at rally points across the galaxy. Ancient enemies put aside their differences to face the human threat. The Zephyrians provided crystal technology. The Luminari shared energy weapons. The Torgans contributed their massive ships and warrior traditions. But humanity was not idle. Admiral Kim Sunwoo commanded the defense of the Sol system as consortium forces approached Earth itself. Her fleet had grown from hundreds to thousands as the Genesis Protocol facilities completed their work. Admiral, her tactical officer reported, consortium fleet approaching the outer system. Preliminary count shows over 800 ships of various classes. Kim Sunwoo studied the tactical display showing enemy formations. The consortium had learned from previous defeats. They were advancing in tight formations that maximized their firepower, while minimizing opportunities for human tactics. Signal the fleet, she ordered. Implement Defense Plan Omega. Show them what happens when they threaten our home. The Battle of Sol began with the largest space engagement in galactic history. 800 consortium ships faced 3,000 human defenders in a conflict that would reshape the galaxy forever. The consortium forces expected to overwhelm the humans through superior numbers and firepower. What they found instead was a defense network that had been prepared for decades. Hidden weapons platforms emerged from asteroids. Cloaked minefields activated as enemy ships passed through them. Human ships seemed to appear from everywhere and nowhere, striking from unexpected angles before vanishing again. Captain Lee Bo-young commanded a squadron of destroyers that had been hiding in the asteroid belt for 6 months. Her ships emerged behind the consortium main fleet and began systematically destroying command vessels. Target their coordination centers, she ordered her captains. Make them fight as individuals instead of a unified force. The consortium fleet began to come apart as human attacks severed their command structure. Ships that had been coordinating their movements suddenly found themselves isolated and confused. Squadron leaders who tried to rally their forces discovered that human jammers had cut their communications. But the most shocking moment came when the humans revealed their ultimate weapon. As consortium forces pressed toward Earth itself, the planet's moon suddenly opened like a flower. Hidden construction bays revealed a ship unlike anything in the galaxy. The UHC Eternal Vigilance was 10 kilometers. 5 years had passed since the last consortium fleet surrendered to human forces. The galaxy looked very different now. Where once the great powers had ruled through fear and strength, a new order was emerging based on cooperation and protection of the weak. President Park Ji-soo stood on the observation deck of New Terra Station, humanity's new capital in space. Through the massive windows, she could see ships from dozens of species arriving and departing in peaceful commerce. Zephyrian crystal haulers worked alongside human cargo vessels. Torgan engineering ships helped rebuild worlds damaged by the war. Even some surviving Luminari had found new purpose in scientific research. Park Ji-soo was the daughter of Captain Park Jin-woo, the man who had first recognized humanity's potential 50 years ago. She had grown up during the secret years when humans built their strength in shadows. Now she ruled the most powerful empire in galactic history, but it was an empire unlike any that had come before. The Harmony Doctrine is working, reported Administrator Song Mirai, now in charge of colonial integration. Former consortium species are adapting to the new system better than we hoped. Production is up 30% across all sectors. Crime rates have dropped to historic lows. Park Ji-soo reviewed the reports with satisfaction. The Harmony Doctrine was humanity's answer to the old system of oppression. Instead of ruling through fear, humans offered partnership. Instead of exploiting the weak, they protected them. Instead of hoarding technology, they shared it freely with species that proved they would use it responsibly. What about the resistance movements? Park Ji-soo asked. Down to isolated cells on 12 World, replied Intelligence Director Choi Hyun-woo. Most former consortium loyalists have accepted the new order. The few remaining holdouts lack popular support. This was the miracle that other species still struggled to understand. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy through brutality. They had liberated it. Billions of beings who had lived under consortium oppression now enjoyed freedoms they had never imagined possible. The transformation was visible everywhere. On former slave worlds, new governments chosen by popular vote addressed the needs of their people. On mining planets where workers had been expendable, safety regulations and fair wages created prosperity. On agricultural worlds that had been stripped of resources, sustainable development restored the environment while improving living standards. But not everyone accepted the changes willingly. Deep in the outer rim, beyond the reach of human patrol fleets, the Korthak Empire had been watching and preparing. The Korthak had never joined the consortium, preferring to rule their own territory through traditional methods of conquest and slavery. Emperor Vorthak the Merciless read intelligence reports about human capabilities with growing concern. His advisors assured him that the consortium had been weak and corrupt, that a truly strong empire could resist human expansion. But Vorthak had not survived 100 years of warfare by underestimating his enemies. Send raiders against their trade routes, he ordered his fleet commanders. Test their responses, learn their weaknesses, but avoid direct confrontation until we understand what we face. The first Korthak raids began within the month. Swift strikes against isolated human cargo ships. Designed to steal supplies and gather intelligence, the raiders expected easy victories against soft civilian targets protected by minimal escorts. They discovered their mistake quickly. Captain Nam Junho commanded the escort destroyer Incheon's Pride when Korthak raiders attacked a refugee convoy near the rim. 20 enemy ships surrounded 5 cargo haulers carrying Verdani families to new homes in human space. "This is Captain Nam Junho of the United Human Colonies," he transmitted to the raiders. "You will withdraw immediately or face the consequences." The Korthak commander responded with scornful laughter. "One small ship threatens 20 raiders? Human arrogance knows no bounds." Nam Junho's reply was quiet and deadly. "I am not threatening you. I am informing you of what will happen next." The Incheon's Pride engaged all 20 raiders simultaneously. Its weapon systems, upgraded with technology captured from consortium research facilities, cut through enemy shields like they were not there. Its tactical computer, programmed with 50 years of human combat experience, predicted enemy movements with perfect accuracy. The battle lasted 8 minutes. When it was over, 19 Korthak ships had been destroyed. The 20th was allowed to escape with a message for Emperor Vorthak. "Tell your master," Nam Junho transmitted, "that humanity protects all species under our care. Any who threaten the innocent will learn the price of their aggression." Emperor Vorthak received the message aboard his massive fortress ship, Death's Crown. Around him, his war council debated the implications of losing 19 ships to a single human destroyer. "It must have been a trap," insisted Admiral Krexthor. "Hidden ships, cloaked weapons, some form of deception." "The survivors' report mentions no other vessels," countered Intelligence Chief Mordak. "One ship destroyed 19 through superior technology and tactics." Vorthak studied the tactical recordings with the eye of someone who had spent a century perfecting the art of war. What he saw disturbed him greatly. The human ship had moved with precision that surpassed computer control. Its weapons had targeted critical systems with accuracy that suggested perfect knowledge of Korthak ship designs. Most troubling of all, the captain had broadcast warnings in perfect Korthak language, including military terminology that was supposedly secret. "How long have they been watching us?" Vorthak asked quietly. The answer came from an unexpected source. Admiral Kim Sun-woo's fleet emerged from hyperspace around the Korthak homeworld 3 days later. 50 human ships took position around the planet that had never been successfully invaded. Emperor Vorthak, Kim Sunwoo transmitted, you have committed acts of piracy against civilian vessels under human protection. By the laws of war, this makes you an enemy of all free peoples. You have one opportunity to avoid the complete destruction of your empire. Vorthak appeared on the communication screen in his full ceremonial armor. Scars from 100 battles crossed his face, and his eyes held the cold intelligence of a master strategist. Human Admiral, he said formally, you speak boldly for someone whose fleet is outnumbered 10-1. My orbital defense platforms alone outgun your entire force. Kim Sunwoo smiled with the confidence of someone who had never lost a battle. Your orbital platforms are impressive. Unfortunately for you, they no longer exist. Vorthak's tactical display suddenly showed devastating truth. Every defense station around his homeworld had been simultaneously destroyed by weapons fire from ships that his sensors could not detect. His impregnable fortress world was now completely defenseless. Stealth technology, he whispered, understanding dawning in his ancient eyes. You have been watching us for years. We have been watching everyone for years, Kim Sunwoo confirmed. We learned long ago that knowledge is the greatest weapon. We know the location of every Korthak ship, the specifications of every weapon, the loyalty of every commander. We know which of your subordinates would welcome new leadership and which would fight to the end for your regime. She paused to let this information sink in. We also know about the slave camps on Korthak 7, the genocide on the Makari homeworld, and the biological weapons experiments on captured prisoners. Your empire is built on atrocities that we will not tolerate. Emperor Vorthak felt fear for the first time in decades. The humans were not just militarily superior. They had been gathering intelligence for so long that his empire had no secrets from them. What do you want? He asked. The same thing we wanted from the consortium, Kim Sunwoo replied. Complete surrender and acceptance of human authority. Your war fleets will be dismantled. Your slave camps will be opened. Your victims will be compensated, and you will be tried for crimes against sentient life. And if I refuse? Kim Sunwoo's expression did not change. Then we will demonstrate what happened to the last empire that underestimated humanity. The demonstration was brief and absolute. Human ships appeared throughout Korthak space simultaneously, destroying military installations with precision that left civilian areas untouched. The entire Korthak war fleet, gathered to defend their homeworld, was eliminated in a coordinated strike that lasted less than an hour. But the real shock came afterward. Instead of occupying Korthak worlds, human forces immediately began relief operations. Medical ships treated wounded civilians. Engineering teams repaired infrastructure damaged in the fighting. Administrative specialists helped establish new governments chosen by the people, rather than imposed by conquerors. Emperor Vorthak, now a prisoner aboard Kim Sunwoo's flagship, watched the transformation with amazement. Why do you help them? They are not your people. Now they are, Kim Sunwoo replied simply. That is what humanity does. We do not just defeat our enemies, we make them part of something better. The integration of the Korthak Empire marked the end of major resistance to human authority. Across the galaxy, the message was clear. Cooperation brought prosperity and protection. Opposition brought swift and complete defeat, followed by forced integration into the new order. Elder Veltharion observed these changes from the Council of Advisors on New Terra Station, the Ancient being now served.